9/11 War Room, a weekly roundtable discussion that takes place every Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Tune in at 911warroom.com.
Welcome to the 9/11 War Room. My name is Gene.
My name is Sandra. On this Sunday, November 2nd, it's episode 207.
All right, let's get started. Only one news article in corporate level news, and it's about the dust in New York. They found 40 boxes. They said there's no evidence that we had any contaminants in the air, but we found 40 boxes. Does a good job saying it himself, so it's about I think a 3-minute clip. I'm just going to play it. He says it best. Here we go.
Environmental Protection said it had no records tied to its role in the aftermath of the September 11th attacks and whether the air in Lower Manhattan was actually safe to breathe at the time. Over the last 2 months, this story has been changing in a way one city council member says is alarming. The city now not only admits that there were records, but that there were 40 boxes worth of records. Eric Feldman has been following this story for more than a year now, and he's with us from Lower Manhattan with the latest. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning, Pat. And we know that DEP played a prominent role in investigating the air quality in the aftermath of the World Trade Center attacks and terrorist attacks. And we found over the last couple of years in our reporting some documents that show just that, like this one, where the DEP commissioner at the time testified before a U.S. Senate committee in 2002 that they had done thousands of tests in Lower Manhattan. Or this October 2001 memo, Pat, where the agency had said it believed some blocks around the World Trade Center were, quote, not yet suitable for reoccupancy. But last year, the agency said after a diligent search, no documents turned up that were relevant to an extensive public records request that had been filed with DEP. The lawyers seeking those files had been filing appeals and lawsuits since then. And this week, New York One exclusively obtained this email that shows the city now saying it has 40 boxes worth of relevant documents. One lawyer who handles public records law called the change, quote, outrageous. We also spoke with City Council member Gail Brewer. She was the lead sponsor on a resolution that the council passed this summer compelling the city's inspector general to look at the city's response to air quality concerns after the terrorist attacks. And she says she believes that is what spurred the documents to be released.
And I find it abhorrent that information like this would not be shared. Why not share it? I assume they're worried about lawsuits.
But it sounds like you think they may have been withholding them improperly.
I would think so.
So we reached out to City Hall and DEP for comment, asking specific questions such as where were these boxes located and why, after they said a diligent search was conducted, did none of these boxes or documents come up then? And we did get a statement back from City Hall from a spokesperson that read in part, while we cannot comment on the specifics of pending litigation, the city has begun turning over documents to plaintiffs' counsel, and both parties are working out a schedule to continue this process. But in there, Pat, no response to those questions about where these documents were found or how you can go from having nothing to 40 boxes. Pat?
You know, it's hard to believe we're having this conversation more than 2 decades later. Eric, thank you.
There it is. They're hiding documents, but 40 boxes. We'll see. It says that the organization DOI in charge of releasing the documents have to go through them, and they'll release what they think is appropriate. We'll see. That's corporate level news. 9/11 Truth Movement level news. We have a couple clips that have come out. If anybody finds any clips of things, please send them in to us or give us a heads up or share them yourself on this week's War Room or next week's any future War Rooms.
Because as diligent as Gene is,
I try.
Every once in a while we get a clip that's like, hey, this was aired like 2 months ago. It's like, what?
Yep.
I didn't see this one pass by, but
So we covered that Bret Weinstein did interview Ron Johnson, Senator Ron Johnson. If you didn't pick this up, check it out. It's really, really good. I just made another small clip. It's 1 minute. Talking about Building 7. Again, we kind of reported on it yesterday because we only saw the first 20 minutes. Last Sunday, thank you. But now I just watching the whole thing, and he did a really good job. Ron Johnson continues to become more aware and speaking appropriately as a 9/11 advocate, or at least somebody open to it. Here's the 1 minute clip I made. Bret and Senator Ron Johnson talking about Building 7.
the reason that World Trade Center 7 plays the role that it does is that it really is a smoking gun. There's no explaining World Trade Center 7 in a satisfactory
Which is why we never heard about it.
Why we didn't hear about it, right?
That's the first evidence right there. They were so effectively suppressed that story.
Which is the exact...
Because there could be no explanation for it.
It's the exact opposite of what you would expect. The news tends to err in the direction of the sensational. The idea that 3 buildings fell, not 2, is more sensational. You would expect that to have been a focus, right? It would have been minor compared to the towers, but it would have nonetheless been, an important, well-known footnote of history, and yet it remained invisible to most people for a long time.
Thought I had the over. Yeah. A little bit of overheating. I think I got it under wraps, but there's a little bit there still. So that's it. Please check out Bret Weinstein interviewing Senator Ron Johnson. Next, we have a little clip from Cenk. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Cenk Uygur and Anna Kasparian from the Young Turks brought up legitimate questions about 9/11 and Building 7, and it's not a conspiracy theory. This is about 46 seconds. Here we go.
It is perfectly legitimate to ask questions. So our mainstream media has bullied us our whole lives. Don't you dare ask questions. That means you're a conspiracy theorist. What did you say? What did you say? Say 9/11 one more time. That's it. You're canceled. You're canceled forever. I'm not allowed to ask. Look, I don't believe in any kind of theory about 9/11, right? But I'm not allowed to ask, why was Mohammed Atta's passport just lying on the rubble when it was paper? That's the one thing that didn't burn. And a building across the street, World Trade Center 7, fell because the steel was so hot it melted the steel, even though it was across the street, right? But the passport didn't burn.
Well,
I'm not saying I know the answer, but I know I'm allowed to ask that question.
There we go.
It is perfect.
I'm struggling with heat issues. Drats. Thought I had it.
Yeah, we thought we fixed that, yes.
And the last clip I think I have, Ted caught this from the International Center on 9/11 Justice. NormFinkelstein was interviewed by Candace Owens. I'm supposed to be released Friday, but she allegedly tried to drop this bombshell that's just basically getting people on the internet to look up some new things coming out about Charlie Kirk. That's a whole different subject we're not going to get into. But she did release it, ended up releasing this Friday, even though she said she was going to postpone it Monday. And Ted caught this. NormFinkelstein still believes the official theory that the Hamas and the alleged conspirators were behind it. Sorry, just messed that up. Here we go.
He goes with incompetence. Right?
Yes, incompetence theory. I'm going to play just the beginning. I'm not playing the whole 4 minutes, just the beginning of it. Here we go.
Obviously, there are areas of interpretation here. And I don't want to pretend as if I have a monopoly in the truth. If you look back at 9/11, okay, our own September 11th, if you look back, and there were many people who wrote at the time, there were a lot of people in the national security establishment who had reports that there was going to be an attack. They came in, the reports came in, no question about that. You have to remember, when you are a state the size of the United States and the power of the United States, you're going to be getting each day 10,000 intelligence reports about possible terrorist attack here, possible terrorist attack there. The United States has a huge number of bases around the world. So you're always getting reports. But a intelligence establishment has to rank threats. And they ranked the Osama bin Laden threat low or lower than it should have been ranked.
That's the gist of it. I don't know why I'm skipping, but yeah, you get the point of it. He just basically going with that, the official story, unfortunately. Got to check out the rest of that interview, which is probably not going to be on 9/11, but that's interesting there. So that's all I had for 9/11 related news, other than the really base 9/11 Truth Movement. Boston 9/11 Truth last week. John Cole was on for the last 30 seconds. He shared half of his presentation about the last 30-second video. If you haven't seen that, the collapse of Building 1, not taking 11 seconds, but taking 30 seconds, which totally disrupts the official story. And he spent the second half talking about his coverage of where did the towers go, and called it, I think it was Where the Towers Went. And there were a lot of directed energy proponents in the chat, which made a very interesting conversation, but everybody was, for the most part, civil. We got 2 people booted out, but ultimately it was a really good conversation. So check that out as well. That's all the 9/11 news I have. Here we'll talk about what... Yeah. Oh, and Craig, sorry, forgive me. Go ahead.
Hi. Yeah, I just want, I mean, since you brought up Jonathan Cole, I just wanted to make a point about that. You know, apart from the Judy Wood stuff, which I'm not going to comment on, he does take the position, and this is this is not a surprise. This goes back to 2011, at least, when he and David Chandler wrote a paper attacking the citizen investigation team researchers and pushing the 757 hit the Pentagon position. That's Jonathan Cole's position all the way along, even though he hasn't been as vocal as some of the other members of the Chandler group. But not only does he take that position, and he asserts that there is literally zero evidence for a North Path, like literally not one point in favor of that. Or any claim of the plane not hitting the Pentagon. But we also learned something new from that that evening, and that is that he believes that Flight 93, or at least a 757, crashed in the field in Shanksville and buried itself totally under the ground. In fact, he used Shanksville, the hole or the ditch in Shanksville and the hole in the Pentagon as supporting evidence for planes hitting the towers. So I find there's loads that's problematic in all of that. And I don't really, personally, I never use one to support another. I never say, well, look at the Pentagon, so that means this happened at the towers. I personally believe in looking at the evidence for each separately and on its own merits. And so I think, I'll wind up with this. I did a presentation on the 9/11 and other deep state crimes teleconference, might have been 5 or 6 years ago, where I basically said that the Chandler Costi group is moving towards supporting the official story, or the bulk of it, with respect to Shanksville. I said, that's where they're going next. Watch for it. That's what's happening. Sure enough, Ken Jenkins has made multiple presentations on behalf of that claim. Now Jonathan Cole's pushing it. David Chandler has indicated a degree of support for that. And so I think this is extremely concerning, and well, not concerning. I mean, it's nothing new to me, but it should be a concern to other people that we're being kind of pushed by this group towards more and more accepting some of the crazier aspects of the official story. And to me, the plane burying itself under the ground is the single craziest thing in the whole story. And now we're being asked to doubt ourselves on that too. So I just threw that in.
Yep. Thanks, Craig. I did make this comment during that conversation. I just want to share it again that, in that room, we had a lot of differing views and a lot of people didn't agree with things. And I really appreciated John's conversation, but I did tell him there, I hold a different view of Shanksville. A couple eyewitnesses that I saw, testimony to an engine that landed several miles before the alleged crash site, and a state police officer that witnessed a crater. More than one person witnessing a crater several miles before the crash site. And then the Pentagon, I haven't taken an official position, but I lean towards there was no plane, which is with John. But as far as Building 7 and World Trade Center 1 and 2, I am wholly on board with them, and I really appreciated that. And my final point in that was that, everyone in this room, or in the room, and even in this room, we aren't going to agree on everything. Absolutely never going to happen. It'd be great, but it's not going to happen. But what we can say is that every one of us should want 9/11 justice. And we're all pursuing our own hearts and what we think is the best evidence and the most solid evidence and what we believe to be true as far as the evidence. And I just ask, we just remain civil with each other and continue to try to push forward for that. So thank you, Craig.
Well, that's fine. Yeah. I mean, I felt I was civil with him, but I mean, I think I think it's not just different opinions. I think it's more concerning than that. But I'll leave it there.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
And if I can say, Craig, the way you present your stuff has really changed, I feel, over the last few months. There's something in you absolutely you were more than civil. You were, fair and objective, and still obviously stood for your end of how you perceive it, which is not how he did. But I know I personally have a lot of appreciation for the fact that you're how should I say, it's a lot more measured. It's not as, I'm trying to find the right words here.
Aggressive?
Well, it's not as blunt, maybe. Yeah. I don't know if it's intentional. You stay away from, loaded terms like cabal and stuff like that.
Well, I think there's still a cabal.
No,
I still call them a cabal. 100%. No question.
I know that you do, but I appreciate that in public conversations, you don't, because for the people who are aligning with the cabal, they get defensive and they feel, so it can be inflammatory, and you can make the same statement about what you believe to be true without that. So anyways, I just wanted to say that I appreciated that a lot.
Got him.
I appreciate that. And I do, I do want to reach people. I do at the same time. I think it can be an issue when people give too much credit sometimes, and they sort of say, well, everybody, everyone has their opinion and they've all done, I think that you can go too far with that also. And sometimes you need to call out, like, I'm going to get myself back into trouble here, but potentially dishonest approaches by people. If you don't call it out, if you call it out, you're considered to be divisive. If you don't call it out, you're essentially giving certain people a level of credibility and respect that maybe their views don't justify. So anyway, before I get too blunt, I'll stop there, I guess.
Understood. There's that delicate balance we don't know what to do with.
Yeah.
The thing is, ultimately, it all depends on whether or not it's true. Right? Because if someone is an agent, then,
Okay.
What?
I just want to move on.
All right.
Go ahead, Jerry.
Yeah, hopefully you hear me.
Yes, sir.
Hiya. I wanted to kind of address what Craig was saying in a way that what I see is people who are genuine researchers, who are genuine in what they're saying on both sides, for example, of the Pentagon, the Washington thing. So these people are genuine people who believe what they're saying and are basing it on evidence. That's what I saw. But what I also saw is that when we focus in on places like the Pentagon, where, like, I said a thing to Craig the other week about how many times has architects and engineers ever asked for the structural drawings. He claims they have. I'm saying they've not. How many times have we actually asked for the Pentagon footage? Okay, it's 25 grand. But yeah, have we actually said, there's the 25 grand, put it down on the table? Because the areas that we're disagreeing on are the areas where we have the least evidence. And this is the point. As soon as people are guiding you toward an area where we both agree that something, for example, bad that shouldn't have happened at the Pentagon happened, it shouldn't have happened, whatever it was at the Pentagon shouldn't have hit it, whatever happened at Shanksville shouldn't have come down at Shanksville, if anything did, I don't know. because there's no structural drawings for it. That's why I've got no interest in the Pentagon. There's no structural drawings for it. So why not focus together on getting the evidence? Because as soon as somebody's drawing us toward that kind of place, then it becomes a circular argument that within the 9/11 Truth Agreement, largely we agree on it. And if we saw the evidence, if we all saw the evidence of a plane doing a North Pass or a missile going into the Pentagon, if we saw that genuine evidence, we'd then have no choice to agree on it. The point is we're working in an evidence vacuum, and that can only have, if a jam donut, Sue's typing there, if a jam donut hit the Pentagon, it shouldn't have. And I just want to say, Sue, you could buy dinner next time, given your income that we were unaware of. But look, we need evidence. And as soon as somebody's guiding us towards places where it's a vacuum of evidence, there's very little to be gained there. So get your 25 grand out, Craig, and let me see what date you asked for book 7, structural book 7. Because the reason I know that was never asked for before was because NIST had to check all the proprietary stuff from Lockheed Steel, that it was okay to release it. And I said at that point, what's the hold up? And that's what they told me. And I said, that means this has never been released before. And they said, yeah. And I asked Richard about if AE 9/11 had asked for those structural books. And he put his hands up and said, no, we blew it. We never asked in that way. You said, when I told you that you'd never done that, you said that's not true. So that's kind of like calling me a liar, eh? But I'll put up, but I could take that. But I've got my letters here. Jane's seen them that NIST gave me when I got those books in 2018, 2019. Where's your evidence? Because right away you said that's not true, and it is true.
Before Craig responds, I do want to say on the Pentagon, I'm losing my thought.
Alexander?
No, go ahead, Craig, while I assemble my thought here. Jeez.
I'm all curious now as to what it's going to be. Okay, hold on, let me get my mic here. Okay, first of all, as to Jerry's comment about the drawings, I probably should not have weighed in so quickly on that. I'm not an engineer or an architect, and I certainly only have my memories of what I've heard and things like that, where that kind of thing is concerned. So I would say I'll retract that. I know what I said, Jerry. You don't have to keep repeating it in the chat. I know what I said. Yes. Okay. So I'll retract that statement because it's possible I'm wrong. And it was kind of a knee-jerk reaction because, frankly, I didn't really understand why you were attacking AE for that. But in any case, you should really direct that statement to certain other people. Kamal Obeid, that's there now. Richard Gage, who was there until 2021, who probably knows whether it was done before that or not. There are different people that probably have the answer to that. I really shouldn't have weighed in on that at all. Having said that, I think I probably snapped that answer out because I wasn't all that happy about what you were saying about what I said about Tucker Carlson. So that may have been the reason why I was a little testy at that moment. But putting all that aside, I want to react to what you said about the Pentagon. First of all, with all due respect, I completely disagree with everything you said about the Pentagon and Shanksville. You're implying there's no evidence. This is false. There's loads of evidence, and it's the responsibility of those who claim that a plane hit the Pentagon to prove it, and they can't. In fact, I think we can prove that it didn't. We've got witnesses, North Path witnesses, that are all had to get together to lie, or they're all just miraculously made the identical mistake, which is just not plausible. On top of that, and I'm going to be quick on this, Gene. On top of that, we have the lack of sufficient damage to the building, the lack of plane parts, The absence of even broken windows that would have been hit by the tail section, the whole, I mean, it's not even, there's no, it's not even close. It's obvious. And Shanksville, to say, like, this was the mistake, I feel, the truth movement, David Ray Griffin wrote it in 2011, his idea of a consensus approach, which was like, let's not worry about whether that happened or not. Let's just say it shouldn't have been allowed to happen. Well, that's the most entry level statement you can make. Yeah, no kidding, it shouldn't have been able to happen. But that's not going to, how far has that gotten us in the last 14 years? Like nowhere. And to say, well, it shouldn't have crashed in a field in Shanksville is like worthless as a position. There's nothing you can do with that. I want somebody to prove to me how a 757 going at a 40-degree angle can crash in a field and bury itself under the ground and have the ground swallow up the plane so that there's just a nice ditch there that's about 15 feet wide. I need somebody to tell me about that. And instead of, and to me, I don't want to be too hard here, but it's nonsense to say there's no evidence. Nonsense. And I will repeat what I always say about the Pentagon. It's the one area that if they falsified that crime scene, it's the one area that proves beyond a shadow of a doubt government complicity. So it's interesting to me that there's such an effort. Yeah, I'm finishing on the sentence. It's interesting to me that that's the area that people seem to want to discredit. But it's the one thing that proves the government was part of it.
I don't think he was going for no evidence, just that there's a lack of evidence in certain areas. One of which, now I remember my thought, the FOIA request that we have in for 100 unreviewed videos around the Pentagon within 1 mile of the Pentagon. The DOJ wants $24,000, $25,000 from us to be able to get that information. Bret Weinstein interviewing Ron Johnson mentioned about these videos, cameras around the Pentagon, and he said, I'm unaware of this, which I find is striking. But Ron Johnson said, please give me more information on this. I wasn't aware of it. So I took the opportunity, and everybody can do this now that Ron Johnson is speaking out. I don't want to spam the guy, but what I did was, you can go to come on screen. You can go to Ron Johnson's website and click on contact, email Ron, and it will usually doesn't accept emails from anybody living outside of the state, but it will allow you to change it, and it will accept the email. So I sent him one saying, hey, we have a FOIA request for 100 unreviewed videos within 1 mile of the Pentagon. Could you help us to try to go after the DOJ trying to charge us this exorbitant price and times of 77 months to return to us an answer? So hopefully he heard that. I'll send it more than once, but not a whole lot of times. And also, I want to thanks to Jerry. He did offer available the books of the World Trade Center models or documents, drawings. If you go to 911warroom.com/model, I made this cool little page with some models that I found. You can't go in the buildings, but it's a great model to be able to show you around each of these buildings and what they look like more specifically. You can fly in and do all kind of neat stuff. But over here at the top, you can click on Files, and you go to World Trade Center, and you look in drawing books, and these are all the drawing books that Jerry was able to procure through FOIA requests and whatnot. They're all available. If you're into it and you like to look and you can read the technical data, here is all the data on steel columns and just everything you could ever want. So thank you, Jerry, for pursuing that and allowing us to be able to see it publicly. Mike Cook.
Hey there.
Howdy.
Long, long ago in a galaxy far, far away, David Ray Griffin was saying stuff about an automated air defense system around the Pentagon. And that makes sense. I think even the news media, the choppers flying around getting images of the wrecks on the highway and everything, knew to stay a certain distance away from the Pentagon, or was just automatic. You were shot down. I don't know if anybody has explored that any further. It makes sense to me that they would logically have, it's the most highly defended airspace on the planet, and nothing should have got near it. And I just wanted to bring that up.
I thought I read somewhere that they had surface to air missiles somewhere, and then somebody said no, that's not true, and I never really went down that rabbit hole. Does anybody else have any comments on that? Air defense systems around DC.
David Ray Griffin was saying somebody had to shut that off.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it would have just fired automatically. You don't have to have a person there.
Yeah. Hearing no voices, I don't know. Well, we'll look into it, Mike. Thank you.
It would
Thank
be
you.
pretty stupid not to
Right.
have Stinger missiles or something available, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and there's that Norman Mineta testimony, right? I don't know if we have verbatim or a recording, but Norman Mineta was talking about Dick Cheney, I think, talking about the order still standing.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Richard. Both Mikes. Chuck, good to see you, sir.
Hey, thanks. So you guys are following these boats being blown up in the north of Venezuela, the alleged boat runnings that the Donald is attacking.
Saw it, yeah.
Okay, now I'm going to connect this to 9/11. Just
I'm looking for it. Thank you.
okay. So I watched these things and I noticed that the pundit said the authorities are conducting these kinetic strikes. And these boats don't sink, they just ignite. They get hit with a flash and we don't get much video picture. I'm convinced that we're witnessing the deployment of a directed energy weapon, because just the context blow up, they ignite. The projectile doesn't pass through, the boat doesn't sink, it doesn't get splintered. So there's a signature event here that connects me back then to the toasted cars of 9/11. But I came to all of this because of the Lahaina fire. And I'm at the point that argues for the truth movement needing to allow all reasonable perspectives and possibilities for explaining what happened. And this means, yes, even the Judy Wood stuff. But I watched a video recently, and I've never really cared about who did it, because for me, the cover up is the crime, and we need to go after the actors on duty at the time. And that would be Dick Cheney and so on. So I'm already at that place, but now I'm backing up around, well, how exactly did this happen? And I'm approaching this because of the Lahaina fires. I noticed the melted cars. I connected them to 9/11. And after the buildings were hit, firemen were reporting these cars were just spontaneously combusting. So part of the truth movement needs to explain how cars are spontaneously getting on fire before the buildings came down. So these are reasonable questions to ask. And when we exclude people from the conversation, we're depriving ourselves of plausible explanation. And finally, this whole idea, the theory is that this cold fusion was applied, and there are some people that are arguing that the technology that brought these buildings down is evidence of what they're calling a free energy system, which is nothing's free. You have to build the machine to produce the one amount of energy, but then there's a surplus that qualifies as the free energy, and it goes beyond that production. So, part of which is a whole nother rabbit hole of discussion around the use of this secret technology for a wicked purpose, but this technology could be available for good purposes for society and solve the problem of scarcity. So there's a whole other language of argument, I guess I could say, around what the truth movement could offer in terms of the discussion of getting justice in the world. So I just wanted to kind of share that. I'm done.
Thank you. Respect what you have to say, but I don't agree with any of it. Personally, I find very little credibility in the Judy Wood theory. I don't want to go into a dissertation and make this a directed energy weapon talk because I don't really want to talk about that in the 9/11 war room. But Occam's razor, there was nanothermite. There were active thermitic chips found in the dust that weren't paint that react.
It was extreme high heat.
And they have temperatures, and that this dust contained it. And a lot of witnesses spoke about how hot the dust was. And I could see that these toasted cars. I'd love to see the evidence or the documentation of these firefighters that said that the cars spontaneously combusted. I'd need to see that. But ultimately, I think the bigger question or the bigger thing would be, and we heard the Bob Grenier.
Bob Grenier.
He spoke very well. He's a very intelligent man, and if for whatever reason somebody wants to see the directed energy weapon discussion take place in a hearing, I don't hold control of that. If that's going to happen, it's going to happen. But I'd love if anybody's going to speak about it, I would rather see Bob speak about it than Judy Wood, because he was much more articulate and didn't use crazy words like lather and poof and just
when the building got its whole
non-scientific terms. So yeah, that's all I really want to say about that. Thank you. Mike Zarzano, Mr. Florida.
Yeah, I called to ask Craig a question, but I can't help but chime in on the discussion now, what Chuck just mentioned.
Here we go.
And this is not about Judy Wood, so don't think I'm going there. It's about truth, and it's about facts of all three crimes: 9/11, the fires in Hawaii, and the fires in California. There are forensic common denominators, forensic anomalies with the way things burn. And this is an undeniable fact, the way the cars were burned along border panels of the door and the quarter panel. That would only indicate that there was some kind of rubber, some kind of a difference between the two pieces of metal. And we all know there are rubber seals between the door jamb and the door itself. And for the paint to be burned in exactly the shape of the door is inconsistent with normal logic with fire. It would only be logical if it were an electronic mechanism that were to create the damage. So that can't be denied. The engines that were melted in California and Lahaina.
A comment. I don't want this to be a do conversation. I don't want to talk about do in here. I just don't agree.
I thought I was talking about facts. Nothing can be disputed about what I've just said. This is forensic evidence that we all know to be true. So I'll end it at that in honor of your wish, Gene.
Thank you.
I did want to ask Craig a question regarding the Pentagon. Craig, your last show Wednesday was fantastic with Xander. I thought it was very interesting, and we really need to promote your shows more so that more people will know about it, because that was a very valuable presentation. Now, what do you do in regard to the Pentagon, Craig? What do you do with the photographic evidence that was found that day and also was sent to Carl Schwartz from a friend of his, a colonel in the Pentagon, sent him photographic evidence of the Sky Warrior canopy glass, an engine part, also an engine, what was it called? A fan blade or fan rotor assembly. And then also the big pallet that was being carried by men in suits and Air Force officer uniforms. What do you say about that evidence?
Well, I would first of all, I would say I know I know the photograph you mean about the thing with the tarp over it. In terms of the photographs that Carl Schwartz is talking about, I have to really look at those carefully. Like I'm aware of them, and I think I have them, by email, but I haven't really looked at them closely. And I don't profess to be an expert on parts to different types of craft, but I'm certainly open to hearing. I'm open to anything on this, but I do just want to make the point that the fact that a part of a particular craft or is found at the scene doesn't mean that it got there because that craft crashed into the building. It could have been planted, and I think there were definitely parts that were planted at the Pentagon. And I just keep thinking about if any aircraft actually crashed into the building, wouldn't the perpetrators be thinking about how the great likelihood there would be, or the possibility that a big huge chunk of that craft would be sitting on the lawn and give away the whole game. So this is where I kind of struggle with the idea of some other thing, other craft crashing into the building, because it so I would just, that would be my reluctance on that, and just the idea that a rotor from some type of engine from a craft is photographed there. It doesn't mean that it wasn't planted. I would just say that.
Yeah, I would have to agree with what you just claimed, that it's possible it could be planted evidence. But and my final question is, what do you do with the video that shows the nose cone of an object entering the far right side of the screen? And have you seen the enhanced version of that nose cone that Carl Schwartz has provided?
Well, I haven't seen the one he's provided, so I will look at that to see if it's different from versions of that video that I've seen before. So I will definitely make a point of doing that. I find the whole video is beyond suspect. I think that video is faked for sure. I think that wavy smoke thing looks like a cartoon.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, and as Xander Arena has I think demonstrated, no one he did it in 2022, and nobody's been able to question him yet. Is that the blur that is supposed to be a 757 is definitely not large enough to be one. So one could argue that it's a smaller craft. My feeling is that the video is entirely faked. I don't think there was any craft on the official flight path, which is what this video is supposed to reinforce. And I think if we kind of sort of say, well, what was that thing? We're accepting that there was an aircraft on the official flight path, which I don't think that there's certainly not witness evidence to back that up. And so I that's my opinion, is that video is completely fake.
Well, there were witnesses that did claim there was a smell of cordite, and cordite is the propulsion for a missile. But also, when you zoom in on the nose cone of the object, it is strikingly similar to an A3 Sky Warrior. It's exactly the same design of a nose cone. So that's interesting. I'll yield. Thank you, Craig.
Right. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
I just go ahead.
Yeah, because we weren't actually finished with the news cycle. I still wanted to get to, after we spoke about Boston, we wanted to mention that Craig had his teleconference last Wednesday, and which I guess everybody got by now, is that it featured the research of Xander Arena regarding the Pentagon and his findings. It was part of a research that he had prepared for the Washington, D.C. anniversary event. And he had presented a large chunk of it back then, was not able to squeeze it all in, kind of flew over the parts he already shared in that conference, and then covered more of the stuff that he had left out on Craig's call. Xander is extremely meticulous and very focused in his research, very unemotional about it. Just gets the information, looks at it. What does it mean? How do you interpret that? Mathematically, is that possible? And so on and so forth. I also found it was very compelling. by far, I think, the best research that was done on the Pentagon issue, especially if you support no plane there. But I would encourage everybody to take a look. Susan was asking in the chat about linking. Craig, I don't know if it's up yet. Is it up?
Yeah, it's not up yet, and that's me just procrastinating. I think. I had the issue that night of the cloud thing being full, and so it's on my computer somewhere, and it takes a couple hours like an hour to convert, and then now I've got to find it. It's sort of it's on my computer somewhere. So yeah, maybe I'll try to get that up tonight, and then if you want to check without since this call will be over. The Substack page for the teleconference is 911teleconference.substack.com. So you can check anytime you want, and there you go. So 911teleconference.substack.com. So I will try to get that up this evening. The video from that meeting, and I think Mike, was it Mike who mentioned that? I appreciate that. We definitely love to have people join us for that. Our group is not as big as this one, but we'd love to have anybody that does this call also join us. Usually it's the last Wednesday of the month, and so I think this month it's hold on, just quickly, it's the 26th of November. Will be the next one. And that's 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern. So
thanks, Craig.
And if you subscribe on that Substack page, you'll get the agenda every time.
Thank you. Just a reminder to everyone, we're focused mostly, the primary focus in the War Room, 9/11 War Room, is strategy and activism. So while I respect that people like to get into the weeds on evidence, I just would rather spend the time where us on new information of what's moved in the movement that will help us move forward and things of that nature, instead of just discussing evidence for 2 hours like they do for the last 20 years in Facebook pages. So thank you. We'll go to Ellie.
Yeah, hey guys. So I think to the point about, calling out people about whether they agree or disagree with your theory, I think it still goes back to, hey, if you think if you think someone disagrees and they're not genuine in the disagreement, then if it were me and I wanted to, and that was important to me, I would reach out to them. And if they're not willing to have a conversation, then that's obviously a problem. If they're willing to have a conversation and they're cordial and you're able to find some common ground, as I know some people did at the turning the tide, well then I think that should be evidence that even if you don't have see things the same way, that you're all here for the same reason, right? So especially on things when it comes to the Pentagon or even in Cenksville, it's like some of these people have been in the movement for decades. For what purpose? To get to the truth, even if they think the truth might be different than what you think it is. So that's what I would say. Like if you're able to reach out, if you can reach out to them and have a meaningful conversation with them, then maybe they are not the bad guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
So and then I wanted to also call out I certainly don't like I'm not I did post a link in the chat on, and it's not directly specific to the whole judo and DW theory, because I know we don't want to have a debate about that on the subject, but I think a better question that is, and I do respect the questions that people have who believe that theory when they ask, hey, what about this evidence, what about this evidence? Not to say that, oh well, her theory explains it, but those are questions that should be answered as well. Even what about the toasted cars? What about the cement? What about things turning into dust? Because I think the question should be, could the thermitic material found, could conventional explosives, high energy explosives, account for any of this evidence? And I know that there's been several movements in that direction. I know, for example, Richard's talked about recently the analysis, or how some research has indicated that the the concrete is essentially decomposed into its original elements when it gets to up to a high enough temperature, and how that could account for all of the concrete being turned to dust without a high energy explosive instead of using thermite. So that's one example of, okay, well, there's these questions. Let's go and do more analysis to determine what could have caused this. And same for the so-called toasted cars. You know, I did post a link to a post I did a few weeks ago, you know, comparing an experiment done with thermite on a car versus what you see at the World Trade Center in the so-called toasted cars. And so I think the question is, you know, as you mentioned earlier, you know, could the substances that we know that we have evidence for, could those substances have caused what we saw at the World Trade Center? And there's so much evidence to say a lot of what we saw at the World Trade Center was caused by those substances. And if there's still open questions, then those should be explored, but in a way that's not like, well, we know that there's something else, but let's actually have a meaningful conversation and not always just say, well, we know we have the answer.
Thank you, Ellie. Well said. And we have to have a conversation. We've been trying to hook up. We're missing each other, but Ellie.
Oh yeah, no worries. I'll catch up with you later this week.
Yeah, anybody here, if you want to have a private conversation with us and just talk something through, I get off work at 3 p.m. Eastern, and I'll get Sandra on the phone conference call because I like to have her in there because, like, I can't remember a lot of things. And it's just great that we could all have a conversation. So feel free anytime after 3 p.m. I'll be in the truck, and give me a call. Thank you, Ellie. Ross, try it again. Not really.
Hey, Ross should probably leave the Zoom and come back in. There's some serious impediment interfering with your system, Ross.
Maybe try that, Ross. I don't know. You might just. Very good. We'll look back from. I'll use this opportunity for Boston 9/11 Truth. Some upcoming shows. November 13th, Dan Noel. November 25th, Bob Runyon. December 11th, Mark Rossini. And January 8th, Nelson Martins. Any other additions or changes there, Sue or Al?
Not at the moment.
And you were you working on somebody else?
Sibel,
yeah.
Yeah, making no headway on that one.
Okay, 10-4.
I'm curious what kind of folks you're going to draw into the Mark Rossini one.
That's going to be a wild call.
It's going to be people that are going to want to be on that call.
I'll be there. He's been warned that he's going to get confrontation. He says, bring it on.
Right.
Good.
Yeah.
Verbalize.
Oh, he sounds like he can handle it.
Yeah, it does.
Yep.
Gives Captain Patterson a run for his money on the F-bomb.
A little bit.
Yep. And he also, in his replies, said, I in no way support the official story. So we'll see what he means by that.
Fantastic.
Yeah, because there's degrees of that, right?
Yep.
Ross, did you drop out and come back that quick?
No, because then his hand wouldn't be first.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah.
Let's go to Jane.
Yeah. Hi. Sorry, Jane. This is in the domain of evidence that you and I asked this question on the TAP meeting last week. I think it was a question that a friend of mine asked. We've just dabbled, you know. She knows I'm a 9/11 truther, but one question she asked was in terms of the question of planes or no planes at the World Trade Center. And the idea with the Pentagon that there was planted parts of planes. Was there evidence? I haven't heard much discussion or talk about evidence of plane parts being found at the World Trade Center near the World Trade Center towers. If planes went in there, and somebody, I don't remember who, on the TAP meeting suggested that there was some photograph of an engine of a plane, and
that was me.
Oh, okay, yeah, and thank you. And the question is there a difference between the likelihood of that being able to be planted there as distinct from the planting of plane parts at the Pentagon? Anyway, I didn't know how to answer her question at the time she asked it, so I just thought I'd bring it up again because different people are on this call than sometimes on the tap call, and if that is meaningful question.
I'll let somebody else answer how they would like to answer it, but my answer for things like that is the bigger question is whether there was a plane or wasn't a plane.
Well, does that possibility of
Hang on,
sorry.
I'm not finished with the statement.
Oh.
Regardless of whether there was a plane or wasn't a plane, the buildings still could never collapse against themselves entirely symmetrically.
Totally not an issue. That's
Yeah.
no brainer. But there are people who think there were no planes.
Yep.
And if there was evidence of plane parts somewhere in the debris, then how likely could they have been planted there? As opposed to actually being the result of parts of planes having been there.
Again, in the essentials, non-essentials, I would consider this a non-essential because the bigger problem is how do buildings fall down. But how would somebody else like to answer it if they would want to tell somebody to go ahead down those rabbit holes? Okay, I'll answer it. Our various plane parts. I'll answer it real quick.
I'm going to comment when it's my turn, but.
Various plane parts were found. There was one on the Deutsche building. I think there was a segment of plane fuselage. You could see the windows. There were various wheels found, one down on West Street. There was one found at the corner of, I forget where, in West Broadway and something, or Church and Vesey. There was one at Church and Vesey, I believe. And then there was a front four, I don't even know what you call it. The thing that the wheels hold the front wheels on a plane, that was wedged between buildings they found years later. And then there's arguments that this engine found at Church and Vesey isn't the right engine part. But if you look up the things, there's again conflicts of whether or not these are actual legitimate pieces to that engine. And it's just once again, it just takes up tens and dozens of hours of your life. And you're going, wait a second, why am I going down these rabbit holes when the bigger question is buildings don't fall like that? So there's my short answer.
Yeah, just I mean, as far if in the whole issue of did planes hit the towers or not, it seems like this evidence, if it's credible, of the parts of planes being found, that would eliminate that whole theory of no planes. And I don't know, it's one thing that we could counter. I don't know.
Well, there's several things that eliminate the no planes theory. And plane parts are a small part of it.
Yeah.
There are 43 videos of the plane hitting the building, the South Tower. There are 2 videos of the plane hitting the North Tower. One from Lincoln Bridge, on-ramp to Lincoln Bridge in New Jersey, and one from the Naudet brothers. Aside from plane parts and plane videos, you have the damage assessment of the buildings themselves with inward bent structural steel exterior columns and orthogonal pieces of these structural steel sections pushed inward, not sliced, but pushed inward, shearing the 4 bolts that were holding the columns above to the columns below. So that's very relevant and direct evidence of planes. There's other evidence as well. There's a 15-minute presentation which I had to rush through in order to get it in the time limits imposed by this debate between myself and Jim Fetzer. It's on the website, richardgage911.org. And that is most easily found by looking at the sliders on the top of the website.
Nice.
Yeah, thank you. That's helpful also. I don't know. I just I didn't know how to answer that question to this friend of mine who was actually, to her credit, asked this question. I don't know why she asked it. I don't know what it meant to her actually, because she hasn't studied it in any depth. Anyway, yeah.
One of the videos Richard was talking about, here's one that I found on YouTube, 50 views of the plane impact on the South Tower. It goes on for 15 minutes. I have somewhere on the computer, I have 3 videos of eyewitnesses watching the plane impact. Again, maybe you could share those with her. That's all. Thank you, Richard. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have a what is it, a dog in this fight particularly. So I didn't know what to say to this friend of mine. So,
Yeah.
and how to respond is, something that we find important to be able to do.
Yep.
Anyway,
Yeah,
thank you.
that's a valid point. Like all these side tertiary issues, non-essentials, even the baby truthers or young truth advocates, or even people that have been in for a long time, don't know how to speak on these tough subjects. The more complicated,
Yeah.
even if they are misinformation or disinformation, we should still have a reasoned response. So yeah, thank you, Jane.
Thank you.
And thank you, Richard, for chiming in there on that one. I'll go to Craig next.
Yeah, thank you. I did want to comment on I'll comment on what Jane brought up, because it was me that asked John Cole about the piece of what looked like an engine. I think it was at Church and Murray. I just asked because I've always been curious about that, because I'm not coming from a no planes at the towers position, but I always thought like that engine just sitting there on the sidewalk looked really weird to me. And how does something that heavy, traveling at that speed, falling from that height, not make a big huge crater wherever it lands? And if it rolled, as some people suggested, where's the initial crater? It should have been a crater. I just can't see how anything that heavy and that sort of made of titanium or whatever, could possibly have just ended up sitting on a sidewalk. So it just was more curiosity. But I definitely want to make very clear that we need to separate the plane parts at the towers from the plane parts at the Pentagon. And because things can be planted in one place and not be planted in another, or things can be planted at the towers even though planes hit the building, right? You don't really know what the purpose of a given piece of potentially planted evidence might be. So there's that. And I wanted to say about the notion of the thing about activism versus evidence. Sometimes there can be overlap between the two, and it's not so easy to separate. Like, we should talk about where the movement's going rather than the evidence, kind of thing. And the example I'll give of that is because of the I would argue these many years of disinformation that we've been subjected to with respect to the Pentagon, and it seems like we're going the same direction with Shanksville. A lot of people are afraid to talk about the Pentagon, and I've already explained why I think the Pentagon's important, and why it's important to annihilating the official story. And I remember at the Turning the Tide conference, Ron Johnson said, you guys need to get together as a movement and put out a document with all your best evidence. And I thought, when I heard that, I know what that's going to mean. The Pentagon won't be on there. And the reason people will give for thinking it shouldn't be on there is that it's just too controversial. So that's a problem. That's a very big problem. And what drives me is exposing official lies. It's not coming up with a pet theory. It's not saying, well, I think this is exactly how they did everything and then focusing on that. It's about exposing the lies of the official story. And if we sort of shove the Pentagon off to the side because a minority in the movement, you know, want to push part of the official story, then I think we're shooting ourselves in the foot. And I would never, I would never go along with that. And also, just the last thing I'll just before I go is you mentioned that that piece that looked like a landing gear or something that was wedged between the buildings. To me, the idea that that thing was sitting there for years and nobody saw it is just unbelievable. I can't believe that nobody looked between the two buildings, you know, in a decade. That seems to me a little bit crazy, but
Just look at all the body parts that they found on Deutsche Bank like years later. That was, remember? And you would think they would have looked on the top roofs of all the buildings nearby, right?
right. I imagine they were very, very small, like
They were.
bone fragments. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
but,
this is a.
but they also found, what was it? A safety vest, I think. You know, one of those, you know, the ones that are tucked under the seats there.
Right.
Anyways, they found different things, but I'm just, regardless of what they found, like, why did they not look there like on, you know, day 2? But
right. But in the case of that landing gear, I mean, how does something even get down in between two buildings where there's like about a foot and a half like space? I mean, how does that fly through the air and then go down there? I mean, to me, that looks totally planted to me.
Thank you. Richard.
That was from before.
Oh, okay. I just want to share something then real quick. I don't really want to get into the weeds on this stuff, but Jane brought it up. So
you guys keep sucking him in.
I know, terrible. So here's the plane, Church and Vesey, the engine. There's been people looking over plane engine parts and saying, yes, it does match Pratt and Whitney. Ray Krieger's, how do you pronounce Ray's last name again? Kreinhagen did a great job in this, and he took the image right there, and I'm gonna put it over. Now watch this. This right here is just Photoshop. You take it out and you cut it and you paste it right here, and he did that. And here's an original Pratt and Whitney engine. That is the engine that would go in a Boeing 767-200ER. By my eye, that looks like the exact section. This part right here. Let me open it up so you guys can zoom in on it and see what he did.
You have to compare it to other engines to see how different it is.
You can see he took that picture off that, put it right in there, and that matches that.
Yeah, but what does a different engine look like? We have no basis for comparison.
So, anyways, yeah, you can go down that rabbit hole if you'd like. There we go. Mike Figa.
Sorry. Yeah, no, I just wanted to speak to that landing gear. Because yeah, exactly. One, there's the engine that you just pointed out. It's kind of a moot point, but that was clearly obviously placed because with the velocity, there's no way it landed in between those two buildings. I put the link there. You can kind of see there's a rope around it and it's a very tight space. Ironically, that was also the finding of that landing gear was related to, they called it the Terror Mosque, but it was a Muslim cultural center in New York City. And that's when whatever parties decided to place that and run with it as part of an Islamophobic agenda. And I guess as a side note, I don't know if people have noticed, but they're really ramping up Islamophobia the last week or so. So yeah, I guess we should all keep our guard up because that's not a good sign.
Yeah. And they didn't even show the picture of the landing gear. There it is. Is that it? Yeah. That's the one picture I remember. Wish they.
Oh, maybe I sent you the wrong link. Yeah, there's like a rope on it, and it's a crazy tight spot. It was lowered down.
51 wedged between 51 Park Place and another building. Now I'm just curious. Okay, we're gonna go a little trip here real quick, guys. Let's go to maps.google.com and put in this address.
Yeah, I was wondering about the angle of that alleyway, but it just doesn't even make sense anyways. But I do find it interesting to say what is the angle of that actual alleyway.
51 Park Place. There's the towers. So basically it's saying the south, it's probably from the south attack. It would eject here, come flying out, and Oh, it landed. Whoop, too close. Somewhere in there. Okay. I mean, it coulda. I mean, maybe. I'm putting it in the maybe category. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Plinko, anything happens in Plinko. I don't know. We'll go to Jack.
Yes, I just wanted to say that it's important not to get too much into the weeds because the bad people who did this have unlimited money and they can just hire somebody to think up more and more details. So we have to disagree about. But the details aren't important. There are 50 pictures, videos of the planes hitting the buildings, and that's enough.
Yep.
No, we don't have to go on and on and on. And I really think they will use that as a trick against us to just say, well, what about this bolt we found over in New Jersey? You know, they'll just think of more and more stuff. And we don't need to get into the weeds, whatever weeds they may think of. Thank you.
Yep. I appreciate that. At least on this call. There's some calls it's great to get into the weeds. But on this one, I'm trying to keep it more. Let's focus on strategy and activism and keeping each other up to date on what's happening in the movement for the week. So thank you, Jack, for that. I appreciate it. Mike Cook.
Hey, yeah, put this in the chat. I think we're talking about the same plane part that was wedged in the very narrow alley between the buildings, had a rope on it.
Yeah.
The rope was put on it as they were trying to get it out of there.
Yeah.
And it sat up there for years.
Yep.
Years. Nobody saw it. Nobody noticed. And then all of a sudden, people see it and holy shit, what's that? And that's not the kind of thing you stage. It just happened. It got wedged in there. People walk right under it, don't even notice it, and then eventually somebody says, "Hey, there's that thing." But the rope was put on as they were trying to get it down, and rope was on it before they took the picture, and then they said it was landing gear at first, and then later it turned out to be a part of the wing mechanism.
Oh, okay.
How do you tie a rope on a thing like that when you without a person being down there?
Well, I would imagine if it were me, I would first put up red tape.
Yeah.
Nobody's going under this thing.
Yes.
And we're going to try and get this out of here. And I'd be putting a rope on it to pull it up, or if I could lower it down, depending on how heavy it was, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense. All right, we're getting in the speculation realm here. Thank you. All right. Anybody new 9/11 news or any events coming up in the next week or so? Anybody have anything new? All right. I just wanted to share one other quick tip with you guys. If you're online and you're trying to look up stuff and you run into problems, here's the problem I ran into. I found this image. Fallen North Tower antenna. I thought, wow, this is striking. First time I've ever seen the antenna laying on the ground. And I look behind it, and in my eye says this looks like the Deutsche building. So I now want to find the original source image. So I take this into Yandex or TinEye or images.google.com, and I throw it in here, and I'm looking like, hey, here's a 22,000 pixel image or 2200 pixel image. This is the one I want. I got to find this. This is an original. I click on it. Access denied. Anybody ideas where you would go from here? Well,
Did we not talk to anything?
Where would you go from here? If you look up an image.
Wayback Machine. Just do a screenshot.
You go back to Wayback Machine. So I'll go to Wayback Machine. We'll pop in this URL that broke. And Wayback Machine says, hey, we got snapshots of that clear back to. Oh, that's great. Let's try this again. Retry. Come on, don't. It just worked earlier. I'm like, I'll use this as an example. Failed. That is funny. Let me try this again. Reload the page. Of course it wants to do this to me. Come on.
Maybe you triggered
There it
something.
is.
Oh.
Okay. These are all snapshots of when Wayback Machine took an image of the website. So we'll go to 2019, the oldest one. All right, I'm going to just skip ahead because it's obviously having problems right now. But I did click on that, and it brought up, and now I lost the image. Oh, goodness me. All right, let's try this again. Hang in there, folks. Way back 2019. Why are you doing this? Well, I saved it. Let's stop that. Wow, there's a serious error there. I did download it. Let me just find it here real quick. Would have been one of these. Man, no, it's not there. Man, I had this all set up for you guys. Antenna. Here we go. Is this it? There it is. All right. There's the original image. You get a better look at what I believe to be the Deutsche Bank, but I need to get my bearings. Like, I need some other images. How do I know exactly what this is? Somebody points out, you see on here, it says iron workers, 43, 40 tons. 40 tons gives me somebody's weighed this already. So how would you, and why is this in front of the Deutsche Bank building? So let's take a look at some images here real quick. Where'd they go? Here we go. So if the spire, the antenna was on top of World Trade Center 1, how did it get clear over here in front of the Bankers Trust building? That doesn't make any sense. We look at another image. This one kind of tells you, well, it doesn't tell you much at all. This picture does. The old NOAA overhead image. If let me go in here because it's easier to scroll in and out for you guys. Get your bearings on where you are. 7's up here. 1 was here. 2 was here. Here's the Bankers Trust building. It lets you know that when you're looking off the face of the building, you saw 3 little windows. Let me find that real quick. And I apologize because I am getting a little in the weeds here. You're looking across the face of it. You see this building with 3 little windows. That image that I had brought up to you guys, wherever the heck that went. Oh, this is terrible. I'm doing such a bad job on this.
Sorry.
Here it is. So you're looking across the face of the Bankers Trust building. There's a shorter building. You got 3 windows, a space, and 1 window. I go back to here. Right here. And oh my goodness. I'm doing a terrible job here. I'm going to cut my losses here because I have my screens all confused. Anyways, what I was getting at, I think this antenna was moved because the only way that it would be able to get from, North Tower, spire ending over here, why is it clear over here? And why is it under the material would be when 2 fell? Yeah, 2 fell first. So why would the antenna be down on the ground? It would be covered up in debris, and it wasn't as seen in this image here. So that all to say, just this is a way for you to, if you're investigating images, how do you go back? You find the source image. You go to one of the 3, either TinEye, images.google.com, or images.yandex.com. Find an original image, try to do some background. If you get a broken link, go to Wayback Machine, and this is a way to diligently start looking through information. Apologize that wasn't more concise, but there it is. Let's go to Magnus, and then we'll go around the room.
Okay, thank you, Jin. Great work. Yes, I'm asking people to donate for the 9/11 Crimes in the Courtroom movie. I'm still donating for that film series, so I'm still working hard to find firefighters. And I'm just asking Jin, can you please look at the picture I sent in the chat?
Sure. How far back?
Actually, is your computer nuts, or can you please run one video?
I can try. It's been doing better. It's it'd be nice to test it after a whole show. Let's try. First, let's get the screenshot. And if you'll explain to us what we're looking at there.
Oh yeah, Larry's Castle is the nickname used for the World Trade Center complex.
And
Nickname used by who? Who's using that nickname?
some people I saw on Google in there was a Reddit page where they were discussing the towers, and then I saw them using that nickname, so I researched it on Google, just the name, and then I found it's this the nickname used for the World Trade Center complex.
Interesting.
All right.
Yeah, and then I have a video 10 minutes and 23 seconds into the video.
All right, here we go.
New York City.
Oop. Close enough. Here we go.
If they say they were coming up empty-handed and couldn't figure it out, that's not believable. NIST put forward a model for the collapse of Building 7 that appears to me that they were grabbing at straws.
Our study has identified thermal expansion as a new phenomenon that can cause the collapse of a structure. For the first time, we have shown that fire can induce a progressive collapse.
Now, when I was a kid, and many people today are probably too young for this, but there was a cartoonist called Rube Goldberg. He drew cartoons of these machines that did the very simple thing in an incredibly complex way. And it was meant to be humorous.
How does this door opener upper really work? You see, waiter places cat B on pile of dirty dishes A. Now cat B sees mouse C. Of course, this is a stuffed mouse because he must be used for the next waiter.
It was meant to spoof the aspect of human nature that sometimes makes things far more complicated than they need to be. And these were called Rube Goldberg machines or Rube Goldberg devices.
And sets off bomb G, opening door H very gently.
The explanation that is given by NIST for the collapse of Building 7 sounds like a Rube Goldberg device.
You could have beams that are here that are restrained from expanding.
I just want to let Shyam Sunder embarrass himself here in this explanation since we got that. Thank you.
Prevent it from expanding because of this column here, for example, and that can buckle. And you see an example of a buckled beam right here.
One column.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, that was Peter Michael Ketchum, who used to work for NIST, was not involved in the 9/11 report at all, but one of the courageous ones who stepped out and said, this makes no sense, and I can't even believe that this happened while I was working for the company. I mean, organization, I guess, more, not company, but yeah. We haven't heard anything. This was like, I think, what, 2016 or so?
Yeah, 2016, 2017.
Yeah. We haven't really, I mean, you know, I guess he said all he had to say, and we were very grateful for what he did say. We wish there had been more NIST employees that felt emboldened to come out and denounce.
We got to follow up with him. What else happened to him? Peter Michael Ketchum kind of dropped off the...
Yeah, like so many. I mean, there's so many. They gather up all their courage to speak, just like the German Max Rupert.
Rupert, yeah.
You know, they come out, they think it's safe, and then they get the backlash, and they're like, I was not expecting that, and they get scared, you know, back into their quiet, or you know, their family's affected by the ripple effect, and they check out.
Then there's the hope that when they retire, they'll speak out. And with that, I would just congratulations to Fire Commissioner Christopher Gioia. Officially is retired. He's now in pension territory, so that's fantastic for him. Congratulations, enjoy, and now we expect you to get more into 9/11 if you watch this. All right.
I just wanted to mention on the activism side, it's not like a big thing, but it's always the little things, right? Gene and I were out and about on Saturday. We had a few errands to run, and our first one took us into Staples because we needed something to fix this laptop. And Gene, of course, was wearing his big Investigate 9/11 shirt over his hoodie. For me, it's more complicated in the winter. It's like, I need a jacket, and I don't have a 9/11 jacket, so I can't really display it like
Okay.
Christmas is coming.
Yeah, that's all.
But Gene was wearing his, and we went to the guy on the counter, and you may as well.
walking up to him. He sees me from far away and says, investigate 9/11, huh? And he goes, I got questions about the Pentagon. And I'm like, oh. I said, really, I find the evidence mostly at the towers. Did you know a third tower fell? And he started talking about the Pentagon again. And then we talked about that a little bit. And he went back to the tower. I said, did you know a third tower fell? He goes, no, what's this? We mentioned that. I go to walk away and he pulls me back and says, what's some websites I can go to check this stuff out? Like, what did you say? And so that was cool.
So he wrote down a whole bunch of things and said, thank you for the information. He was also looking to Charlie Kirk and, one of those who, once you look at one thing, you look at everything else, right?
Yep.
And but very interested, very open to the conversation. But again,
and then in Giant Eagle,
I was getting there.
Oh, okay, sorry. I'm trying to make it quick. Go ahead.
And in Giant Eagle, we're standing at the
Giant Eagle's a grocery store.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So we're standing in line at the cash. Gene's already ahead because he wants to pack the stuff, and I've got an older man behind. I shouldn't say older man. Anyways, he was probably about 80, and he sees Gene's shirt again and says to me, that's an intelligent young gentleman over there. I said, well, thank you. And I'm not even sure I asked. He just basically went, because he wrote a letter because of relating to Islam, and on 9/11, 19 hijackers. This happened, and they basically imported Islam into the U.S. And I'm said, I'm not sure how you interpreted his shirt, but that's not what we're talking about at all. But I didn't say anything else. And he says, well, I'm sorry. He goes, I misunderstood. Then what does it mean? And I said, well, it means that we are not on board with that story at all. And he goes, how so? And I explained it to him in a couple of sentences. I said, did you know a third tower fell? He goes, no, he did not. He goes, what tower was that? I said, World Trade Center 7. And he just asked 2 or 3 questions, and he was very, very interested. He goes, is there a website where I can go to get this information? And I was caught off guard. And the first thing I told him was Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth, because if you're going to give one website, that's the one you give, right? And then we remember that he had the cards on him with the websites for AE, the Lawyers Committee, and IC, and with all the website addresses. So it's like we gave him a card, and he thanked us very much, and he said he's going to look into it.
Yep.
Like not the group of the age group, will you say, that would normally be really on board with looking into questioning government narratives. Unless you have it in you to begin with. But
So just to say that if you're not into holding a banner on a bridge or holding signs on a street corner, just wearing your shirt and walking around and keeping a couple cards or a flyer in your back pocket, you're not even saying anything. You're just walking around and somebody's asking you questions. And here, read this.
And I do want to say, that these people, maybe not the second guy, but we've seen this several times. There's more and more people who have the courage to ask about his shirt. Or about the information. Even when we went to the No Kings, people were willing to engage. And I'm thinking that these same people, maybe a couple of years ago, would not have dared say anything. And I'm thinking that this climate, where in so many different arenas, people are asking questions, whether it's Ron Johnson or Tucker or Bret Weinstein and young Turks, and this is the beauty of it for me. It's like, yes, this is a bipartisan issue. No, it doesn't matter if you're left or right. And if the truth matters, it matters everywhere. So this climate where we can ask questions and normalize having these discussions are what encourage people when they see someone wearing a shirt like that, saying, hey, I got some questions. So don't underestimate the power of this conversation going global now. It is opening doors, and hopefully it'll move us forward. And yes, please wear your 9/11 stuff outdoors.
My eye. I got a couple of hands, and then we'll go around the room. Al.
Yeah, following up on that, I was listening to Weinstein's interview with Ron Johnson, and at the end of it, there was another video of high school kids, and this guy was walking around with a mic and asking them what they knew about 9/11. and they were pretty basic. A lot of them had no idea they'd been born after 9/11, and how to address the best way to address these kids that had really no basic understanding. And it's a good tutorial, I think, for anybody that gets hit with somebody that has no knowledge. And that's, I think, where our job is approaching these kids, because we're going to age out very quickly, and I think it's important. We can talk to death all about the tech talk, but I think we should have discussions about how to approach this, the very simple, basic questions. And anyway, that's all I got.
Well, Al, if you can go back through your history, maybe if it was a YouTube video that you watched that interview on, because I would love to see that. It wasn't part of the Bret Weinstein, Ron Johnson interviews.
No, this is the following video, and
Yeah, but it's different for everybody. That's the thing. The algorithms cue things up for every viewer differently.
If there's any way you can go back in history and find that, I would love to see that video.
Yeah, it was kind of cool, I thought.
Do you know how to go through the history? Because we can, well, we'll do that on a separate call, but we can walk you through it.
You mean on my
on your computer?
Yeah, my video. I
Yep.
think I do. I'll have to check it out.
Cool.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Al. Go to Mike.
Yeah, I guess 2 comments. This will count as my roundtable, then I'll be on mute. Along the lines of what you were saying, I've wondered about people doing a retirement confession. So this is kind of for Richard or in general, but I think Richard would be a great person. If we could get a list of people, NIST employees, even some maybe retired Senate, House, but anyone really connected to it that we kind of fingered as having knowledge, not necessarily a guilty party, but even them. If we could ping them with an email with a link or two, because Tucker has his episode, really just send them a link or two and prime them. We might be surprised if someone replies to Richard and says, "Oh, they have things they'd like to say," right? Which may be very key, or they might be just circumstantial. Yeah, and then the other thing that I thought of, probably from the rethink thing, I think we might be at a good time to do a single billboard somewhere, which is simultaneously a fundraiser and information awareness raising, but just a single billboard in a single city, and be interesting to see what that generates for traffic and possible donations.
Yeah, campaign like rethink. That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, good ideas, Mike.
Good idea, yeah.
Let's go to Craig.
You can count this as my
all right
run around the room at the end too. But I just wanted to jump in now because just to mention something, follow up on what Mike just said. The book that Roland Angle was writing when he passed away, and I'm still working on it, and actually working on it with his widow Nikki. The bulk of it was done, but there are some things that need to be dealt with. And one of a big chunk of the book is persons of interest. It's a whole list of people that had, not necessarily people guilty of any complicity, but people who had roles to play where they might know something, either in NIST or in other agencies or, whatever. And so that will come out at some point. Yes. And so that might be a good resource when the time comes to sort of follow up with, with some of these people to see if they are willing to talk. And since I'm talking now, I just want to mention something about, because your story about being in Staples and having somebody ask, that's great, and I think that's I honestly I walk around. I've had people stop me and have full conversations about the Montreal Canadiens, the Montreal Expos, and my favorite rock band Styx, all just because of what I was wearing. So that's got to work with 9/11, I think, just as well. And I do have a 9/11 shirt too. And I just want to leave with this thought. We've talked about a little bit about getting into the weeds and all that. And that can kind of get a bit of a. It sounds a bit negative to say getting into the weeds, but I do want to just remind everybody of the point that new people that we're going to be approaching, and I think this has actually been useful because, yes, we have to know how to answer questions, and people are going to be asking what they're going to say. Well, if they've heard something, some people say that the towers, had bombs in it or something. So the thing that we think are the weeds are often the things that are going to intrigue somebody enough to start looking into it. That's how it worked for me. When I became aware of David Ray Griffin's books and I started questioning the towers, it was because of his books. And he gets into the weeds in his books as much as anybody, right? So we got to think about somebody being introduced. What are they going to be interested in? And I'll just finish on this point that that is why, and I hope when you, Gene, when you met that person and they asked about the Pentagon, I hope that when you phrased it, you didn't discourage them from their interest in that topic, but that you just said, well, if you're interested in that, you should also look at this. I hope.
Yes, that's
so.
fine.
Leave that there.
Yes, that's how I did take it. Thank you.
Exactly. Perfect.
All right. Thank you, Craig. Going around the room. Continuing on, Mike Cook. Anything for the group, sir?
Yeah. Snafu. Situation normal, all fucked up. And FUBAR, fucked up beyond all recognition. That's how kind of things fit. There was a parade we did. It was a Martin Luther King Jr. parade. We wore our 9/11 stuff. We're passing out flyers and things. Any kind of opportunity like that, folks, get out there. It doesn't take that much time or money. You can distribute stuff. And one of these, this lady said, 9/11, yeah. Did they ever find out who put the bombs in the buildings? I mean, that was her response. She knew about explosions and stuff, but that was about it. The rest of it kind of went right over her head. But she was aware. It's like, yeah, the buildings were blown up. Who did that? That was neat to encounter just on the street in Cincinnati.
Unless you got two things confused and she was thinking about the 93 bombing.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, but yeah, good point. Possibly, just get out there, spread the word. That this Charlie Kirk thing has really got legs. If you have not been following it, it is an amazing amount of information coming out on this. And I think also that COVID, has got a lot of people more awake. A lot of times people don't give a shit unless it affects them directly or someone they know and care about it. And that pandemic thing is just worldwide.
Bases, yeah.
Definitely raising a time for people to ask more questions. So thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
John Olson, aloha.
Wow.
Aloha. Thank you very much for that. And happy to see Carol Brule. Maybe I can give a talk. A long time since we've talked, Carol. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay, good. I'll give you a call. I'm concerned now mostly about this buildup around Venezuela. It feels just like Iraq Volume 2. The whole thing. Of course, everything is being planted and like we've been talking about. And I'm worried, but at the same time, I think that Russia and China have been getting some relevant equipment, shall we say, to the premises. So that might forestall what some of these folks have in mind. It's sort of like a chess game. It'd be like putting the U.S. in check, not checkmate, but basically this move isn't going to work. So that's something we need to be paying close attention to. And of course, people like Scott Ritter and Ted Napolitano and Larry Johnson and McGregor, Colonel McGregor, all have good things to say pretty much all the time.
Yeah, McGregor was.
That's where my head's at politically.
Thank you, John. I know McGregor was just on with Tucker Carlson, so he's getting his word out there.
Good.
Thank you.
Did you talk about 9/11, McGregor?
He's only danced on the subject, saying that he knows that we were lied to, basically. He says it's not. We invited him to the event in December, and he said it's not my forte, but good luck with it. So
Okay. Well, that means he knows.
yeah, I would say he's in support. He just doesn't want to get dirty. Yeah.
You got a response anyway, which is nice.
Yeah. We'll go to Jane.
Oh, thank you. I don't have anything more to add. I'm just always full of appreciation for all of this debate, disagreement. Anyway, creative solutions to all of this mess.
Good to see you, Jane.
Thank you.
Thank you. Carol Brule.
Well, I'm in recovery. I had surgery last Thursday, and I was in Colorado to help my niece who had a new baby, and I had the pleasure of having dinner with Fran Scher, David Chandler, and Eric Lawyer, and Marty Hopper, who are all 9/11 truth activists, very strong in Colorado, and that was really a great experience. We had some fantastic conversations. So I'm enjoying my convalescence and trying to catch up on what's happening because I was gone for a while. So it's really nice to hear the news.
Great. You feeling well?
About what's happening. And we're also having our Northern California 9/11 Trib Alliance meeting this coming Thursday. And I'll be going back to Colorado in December. But I am interested in what's happening if there is a collective effort to do something in New York, or whether we should just focus, as we usually do, on having our West Coast event at the Grand Lake Theater. Also, two of our speakers, Amber Yang and Bruce DeTorres, had a conversation recently. I posted on my Facebook page, but it was about 9/11, but also I think the larger picture. I think 9/11 is just one piece of this giant puzzle universe that we're trying to understand and seek truth in. And I found it quite interesting. Maybe other people would also enjoy it. I'll probably add it to our Northern California 9/11 Truth Alliance website.
You said
I wish everyone the best. Thanks so much for your insights.
Yeah, you said you did put it on your Facebook page.
I did, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so but we're looking at it says October 1st. Could that be?
No, it was recent. It was just when I came back from Colorado. So
Yeah, there's nothing there.
oh, well, then maybe I messed up. I tried to post it, but okay, I'll try again. I'm not very great with computers, and then I haven't been able to use my arm for the last 2 days.
You're healing well, though?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Right on. Thank you, Carol.
Bye, Carol.
And Richard, following up.
That was great to hear from you, Carol. Gosh, long time. Hope everything's going great in Northern California. That's where I started. That they started me, that group. I'm telling you, I was as green can be. I was shocked that they would even insinuate that the towers came down by something other than the planes. And I fought the awareness that a third tower came down. It was just completely out of the blue. I showed up at Grand Lake Theater. Carol's and Ken Jenkins and their team, their event, and Brian Good was there, and everybody else. And I because I had just heard Bonnie Faulkner talk to interview David Ray Griffin the night before, and then this event happened on May 29th, I believe, 2006, and they wouldn't let me in. They were packed. It had 600 people in that theater. They sold it out. And they said, well, you can get a DVD, take it home and go watch on the live stream. So that's what I did. But I was intrigued enough to show up uh, every 2 weeks after that because they had meetings. And Jim Hoffman and many experts there helped me immeasurably to get on the right track with the evidence at the World Trade Center. And we met for years, right, Carol?
Yeah, we still do. And you were out here not that long ago.
Yeah, well, that was our summer West Coast RV 9/11 tour. That was fun. So anyway, I credit you guys for waking me up. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, you've done a great job, Richard.
Thanks.
You're working on Crime Scene to Courtroom episode 5.
Yep. We're Stev has 45 minutes out of 60 minutes polished, and I got to work today, tomorrow, the next day, trying to keep ahead of him.
Mm.
We're working on seismic evidence now at the at Building 7, and then we go into something else and we close it out.
Nice. Thank you, Richard.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
You too.
Al Megaletta.
Sorry. Yeah, no, just hope everybody shows up at our next meeting, and I pretty much said what I had to say. I will look for the follow-up video. It was really good to see the kids and how they reacted. So hopefully I can find it. Otherwise, I'm good. Appreciate all you guys.
Thank you, Al. I'm gonna thank you. And I'm gonna stick with Boston. Let's go to Susan.
Yeah, I'm leaving on vacation Club Med for on the CIA payroll tomorrow.
I need a yacht. Can you buy me a yacht? I need one.
Oh, well, you have to pull the line, you know. No, seriously, I'm leaving tomorrow to visit my brother in Florida for a week, so I'm taking a break. And then when we get back, we'll be back full steam and still working on the website. So it needs a lot of improvement. And Al has his hands on his head about that. I don't blame you. Me too.
Okay, so a reminder again, not this Thursday. This Thursday, there's no meeting for Boston 9/11 Truth, but
correct.
Thursday, the November 13th, Dan Noel will be on. So thank you both, Al and Susan.
And also, please feel free to email me suggestions for future guest speakers, or if you're not on our list, to get on our list for notifications. It's sueserpa@gmail.com.
Right on. Thanks, Sue. Back to Magnus, Mr. Norway.
Oh yeah, thank you. I just wanted to say, if you can't do street activism, you can just go to 911c2c.org or 911firefighters.org, so you have an opportunity to help whatever you're doing. Thank you.
Oh.
Thank you, everybody.
Good plug. Love it. Thank you, Magnus.
Richard's got his own advertising agency,
Yeah.
Magnus.
Yeah. Thanks, Magnus.
Roy McCoy.
I have a question for Sandra. Just following up on what she said about the Rumsfeld statement on September 10th. That was not actually, or was it? Or she was saying it had been made in January earlier that year. What was the story on that?
Well, no story. I mean, he did announce it on September the 10th, but it wasn't the first time that it was reported. And the earliest time that we were able to track it was January of 2001.
Oh, so in other words, the September 10th press conference or statement actually did occur on September the 10th. I thought you might. Okay, yeah, okay.
It
okay.
did.
That's what I was wondering.
everybody's saying that he announced it for the first time on that day, and it had been widely known for 9 months. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm feeling I need always to kind of insert that, because it does make a difference.
If anybody has a contact, I was trying to look up the link to it. Ed Brotherton had the link to the document that announced it in January.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know. I don't really care. It would just be interesting if that was just a story that it was on September 10th and it had actually been in January, but that's not.
No,
what it is. It actually, he did say it on September the 10th, and
Yes.
okay, he may have said it before. He did say it before. Fine. And I might say also about this the no planes question, trying to be quick, that I was very unacceptive of no planes for quite a long time, and the no planers really despised me bitterly, and I took a lot of flack from the no planers because I wouldn't buy it, you know. And what they kept throwing at me was this thing that you know, airplanes don't melt into buildings the way the video showed that flight 175 melted into the South Tower. And I didn't, you know, I didn't buy it. I didn't buy it till I saw September Clues, and then September Clues was wrong. But anyway, I had gotten away from the planes melting into steel buildings thing. And you know, those videos, thank you for the 50 views. I found one recently that I think only had 15 or 20. So this is more complete. I'm going to have a look at that. But if they're all showing the plane melting into the buildings, I'm afraid that's just enough for me, finally, to not be able to believe that the planes actually did that. The plane, the flight 175, I think the North Tower is different. There actually, you know, there actually was a plane, and I think it may have even been the same. But I'm not going to go on about that. I just think it's not, you know, that isn't something to decide. And then very quickly on the do thing, I think Chuck's motivation is, as he said, that do technology could be used for good. I think it could be used for, well, I mean, you know, it could be used for very bad things like blowing up the world. And that's why I'm never going to be an enthusiastic proponent of do, whether I think that it was used or not. Because if it is as destructive as I think it might be, and none of the do proponents have told me that it couldn't be used by a small group or even an individual to do great damage. You know, I find the suppression of it sort of understandable if that's what's happening. Okay, that was it. Thank you.
All right, I found the answer too while you were talking. The document was an audit report titled, thanks to Grok, it helped me, mentioning the 2.30 trillion unsupported accounting adjustments to the U.S. Department of Defense Office, but the end, blah, blah, blah. Internal controls and compliance with the laws and regulations that blah, blah, blah. Here, I will send a link to it. It's Inspector General. You scroll down to, I forget what page it is, and it says here, this is again released in 2000, or in January 2001. We also identified 2.3 trillion in accounting entries to the financial data used to prepare financial statements for the Army, Navy, Air Force, General funds, and the Army, Navy, and Air Force working capital funds. Those accounting entries were not supported by adequate audit trails or sufficient evidence to determine their validity. So it's mentioned more in here. There were 2.3 popped up 8 times, but if you check it out, it was definitely mentioned earlier. Let me see if I can find a date here.
It doesn't sound quite
that's
as
actually February. Wow, it wasn't even 2001.
2001.
It was 2000. Yeah, that's significantly earlier.
It's a significant amount of money too. Like Mike Cook says, you can do a lot of things with $2 trillion.
Yeah, yes, you could. Thank you.
You could get 9/11 truth for that.
Yes, you could. Many times over.
Or just buy me a yacht, you know.
Jack, anything for the group wrapping up?
Yes, I'm sorry it wouldn't go on. 2 things. First, Colonel McGregor's former military, so they constantly threaten them with removing their pension. So that's why he can't speak up anymore.
Probably. Thank you.
And secondly, the average person is just not very smart in this area. If they watch the movies, they will be convinced that 9/11 was an inside job. But as far as about arguing about some little detail, it's not going to convince them of anything because they just don't think in that region, and they're not that smart in that type of thing. I've run into that many times. You can't convince somebody by proving some little detail because their brain just doesn't go there. But if you watch the whole video, any one of our, now 20 or so, including Richard's videos, you'll be convinced. And I think we need to go for the big picture. Thanks.
I got to add on. Chris Martin said, you're not going to beat people with logic. Kurt Weldon even said it. Congress isn't convinced by logic. But Chris Martin pointed out something that you say things that make people feel like they want to be part of the group. Like, why weren't they aware of this? Like, he was when I'm talking about physics, and again, he said, and I'm quoting him, kind of paraphrasing him. Why? I'm told to believe, just accept blindly what happened on 9/11. I'm not going to suspend my belief in physics, and nor should anybody else. End paraphrase attempt. So it's just basically getting other people to hear that and say, well, yeah, why am I believing this garbage? Like, I want to be in the in group. Like, it's obvious. So there's different ways. There are some people that are into the technical details that do like that, but yeah, to each his own.
Yeah, and I just want to reiterate that we keep, the more we speak to people, the more we realize, their one wake-up moment was something just totally obscure.
Yeah.
The most bizarre things that trip people up and say, I should look into this, and then they'll find their truth, but you just never know what it's going to be.
There's the challenge. We all have our ways, and we like to present the information, but everybody likes to receive different information. So while World Trade Center 7 might be supremely important for me, to the person like the gentleman at Staples, he really wanted to hear about the Pentagon. So you got to be able to meet people where they are and how they want to hear things.
But more importantly, and more not just the technical details or the specific things that speak to people, what is universal is that people want to feel validated. They want to feel listened to. So if you can engage in a conversation and ask them questions, because the gentleman at the supermarket, when I saw that he was going down that road, it's like, I said, I asked him, what exactly are you talking about? Because that's not what the message is on that shirt. So I wanted him to bring forth his position, because unless I know where he stands, I can't even respond. I can't offer anything at all. But I knew it was off, but I needed to know what he thought. So have a conversation. Take the time to listen and ask questions that puts them on the spot instead of like doing a salesman's job and smacking them over the head with what they should think. So
it's the Columbo tactic. Just keep asking questions, pull it out of them, let them talk, and they'll be like, man, you were so great to talk to. And you didn't say anything.
About themselves. They love talking.
Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
Netanyahu gave a speech this week where he said he was protecting us from the evil Muslims that did 9/11. That was a speech this week. So they have got all kinds of propaganda to go against us.
Oh yeah.
Whose speech was that?
Netanyahu gave a speech.
What do you expect?
Israel is protecting us from the evil Muslims that did 9/11.
Yep.
Yes, of course, always.
And I admitted it.
Still saying that to this day.
When I looked up news this week, I put search for everything 9/11 minus Mamdani. I'm done hearing about Mamdani. It's like it's propaganda to sit this war back and forth of all that. So anyway.
He's so far ahead. It's like people are aware. They're not buying it. I can eat that poop sandwich no more.
Thank you. Thanks, Jack. Who's next? Mike Figa. Anything?
I think he's.
I'm playing pool. You might have some background noise here. But no, I'm good. But yeah, definitely think about cold calling, and Richard or some of us could talk maybe about a single billboard.
Right on. See if you can put some English on that ball. Talk to you. Ross.
If you can.
Yeah, okay. I hope it's going. Anyway, Senator Bob Kerrey from Nebraska. 9/11 was a 56-year-old conspiracy. That's an important person to follow up with Ron Johnson with. They should get in contact. Also, the important thing about the Pentagon September 10th news conference is that was edited out was that 8 o'clock in the morning on September 11th was to become the serious audit, which was what Rumsfeld said. That had been edited out of that news conference. Lastly, since I'm being heard, I'm trying to remember what the last thing was. Yes, well, I'm forgotten for now. Maybe I'll jump in since it's working, but that's it for now.
Are you good? Thank you. Chuck, anything for the group wrapping up?
No, just, it's to me a scandal that anybody can be slurred for questioning the 9/11 and saying, it wasn't, hijackers. And so it shows the power, that's right, of this power elite. So in any case, peace out, everyone. Have a great week. There's a post in the chat for Tap Talk, and we've got a broad question about truth movement that we're going to explore for discussion. You guys have a great week. Take care.
You too, Chuck. Thank you. People are jumping all over the place now.
I'm here, by the way. I don't think you can see my name.
Go ahead, Diana. Sorry.
I just wanted to let you know I went to see Gregory Mannarino. I don't know if you know him. He's a financial YouTuber he's been on Alex Jones. So he's definitely knows about 9/11, talks about false flags all the time. So this weekend he had a birthday party and I went with Kelly. She lives near. That's why I'm on a bus right now going back to Miami. And I got his phone number, so maybe we can ask him to be a speaker at a conference next time.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Diana.
Thanks.
Carl.
Yes. Gene, did you pick up on any other interesting tidbits in the Weinstein Johnson interview that you haven't shared?
Yes. That he once again mentioned that he doesn't know who the guy is that came to him outside the Senate Hart building. Yeah.
That I just had vanished without any record of ever visiting his office.
Okay, well, hold on. So yes, he did repeat that story, but just for the record, they had that interview in the week preceding.
Oh, that's right.
The Washington event. They only released.
Right, but Sandra, you know what?
What?
6 weeks before the Washington event, I was interviewed by Johnson's PSI staff.
Yes, I know.
And it's not credible that Johnson was not aware in the weekend preceding the conference that his staff knew who I was.
Well,
so, and secondly, the first thing I said to Johnson on June 2nd, when I spoke with him at the entrance to the Hart building, was, Senator Johnson, the most important thing you can do is, I'm sure all my colleagues, like myself, was confronted with signing a non-disclosure agreement upon separating from government. Now, I feel free to talk because I wrote the words "under protest" above the signature line before I signed. Otherwise, I was told they would not process my separation retirement paperwork.
Wow.
So I told Senator Johnson the two things I discussed with him were the most important thing the Senate or Congress or he can do is to announce that anyone who wants to come to him, because he's open for business, right, is that don't worry about the non-disclosure. We'll make that go away. You need to come and speak with us about the treason that you know about. But the only thing Senator Johnson talks about is that I mentioned to him, I sifted for computer components or more generally anything electronic. But then, oh gosh, since during my interview by PSI, I brought up Israel and Christopher Berlin and the Levon affair, and suggested that although I don't think it was entirely a Mossad job, I think there was U.S. involvement, that there's a lot going on here, at which point they cut my interview short at a half hour instead of an hour. So I have attached a digital file in chat that's about 14 megabytes. The audio of my interview by the PSI staff on July 14th, and I have put it out there for the world to enjoy because Senator Johnson has a very selective memory, but he's, I believe, about to redeem himself concerning survivors of the USS Liberty attack.
That's cool.
I'm sorry, I'm ignorant. What is PSI except for pounds per square inch? I don't.
Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations of the Senate Homeland Security Committee.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Carl. I downloaded it. I will check it out. JB. He's getting there. He's so close. He's clicking on it. And he's not there. Jerry. You there? You still up? Yep.
Yeah. This week, we've started looking at motives on the part of the Port Authority as to why they would take down the Twin Towers, why they would want to do it, rather than how they did it and everything else. So, going through the documents that were released as part of the investigation, the WTCI ones, this week I learned that there is not a level, a floor in either towers, either above grade or below, that did not contain at least 2 different forms of asbestos. And I also learned that the Port Authority denied any asbestos in Building 2, downplayed it. It's all there. So every level had more than one form of asbestos on it. There's not a floor of either of these towers that didn't. And I didn't realise that. I didn't think that. I knew there was a lot of it, but I didn't realise just how much asbestos was in these buildings. Somebody hit a button and released all that asbestos into New York. I think that's the way to wake up people in New York. It's like, look, you breathed this, and you would have been able to sue the Port Authority, but now you can't because they leased it to a limited company.
Just for the thank you, Jerry. For the people that aren't aware, but what he means by different forms, what I'm taking is like you have spray applied fireproofing on the beams and columns and under the decking. You would have insulation around pipes that might have asbestos in it. You could even have the 6x6 asbestos tiles. That's basically what you're getting at, Jerry.
Yeah, exactly that. And it was the tiles for they say that the base flooring for the towers, meaning the flooring that they put down, even if there was carpeting going on, was all asbestos containing tiles. The roofs had asbestos in them. The pipe lagging had asbestos, and there was also sprayed on asbestos in the inside of every lift shaft that was coming away. So it was found loose on top of the cars. That means if you got on an elevator at the Twin Towers, you were exposed to asbestos. And he didn't disclose that. You can't use those towers without getting in the elevators. And I believe as well, that's why they didn't want Otis doing the elevator upgrade, because Otis had that concern for their employees because they knew it well. So that's why the only client of Ace Elevator was the World Trade Center. It was set up so it was limited, and then it was the companies were better hermetically sealed than the towers ever were. Put it that way.
Yeah. And then Ace declares bankruptcy, I think, in 2006, and who knows where they are.
Yeah.
Jerry, have you seen any estimates of the abatement? We know we've heard $5 billion. I'd love to get documentation on that if you've seen it.
Right. The Port Authority was going to took on a policy of bringing all their buildings up to the new code in 1998. So it was going to cost them 250 million with it before they touched the asbestos to bring the towers up to code. Then the asbestos, what they did was they sent a girl to the IBM headquarters who were getting rid of 600,000 square feet of asbestos, and it was just an astronomical bill. I don't think it would be 5 billion. I think it would be about 2 billion. But if they were going to take the towers down, they would have had to dismantle them. But they would have had to abate all the asbestos before they did. And if they were going to do that, they would have had to shut the towers down because you couldn't use the elevators, because the fire in 1975 and the 1993 attack both proved that the towers weren't airtight. That if smoke goes from the 9th floor up to the 80th floor in a fire, so does asbestos. So I reckon about 3 billion would have been the liability. They sold Larry Silverstein a liability, and I don't believe that Silverstein Properties made that investment without knowing it was going to come good. The worst property investment ever turned into the most profitable.
Have you seen any bids or estimates or anything?
Yeah, there were 30 contracts that were already done. They had abated 350,000 3.5 million 3.5 million square feet of floor tiles, and then they claimed that that was half of the floor tiles, but there was 12 million square feet. So they weren't far away from it. I could get those reports to you that show the estimates. I'll dig the pages out, because it was actually, I tried it out against Grok on Twitter this afternoon just to see. Yeah. And so, because Grok tries to debunk you. But yeah, I reckon about 2 or 3 billion at least. I think 5 billion is a bit much, but I don't know. I mean, it's possible.
Yeah,
I've never been able to get documentation on the cost. So if you could find it, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
Well, they said $25 per square foot of sprayed on. That's what it was going to cost them. $5 to $6 a square foot for the floor tiles, and I can't remember the lagging around the pipes. You would have had to change all the pipes because you're just going to encapsulate it. But they encapsulated all the asbestos in the lift shafts. They sprayed cement on it. And the problem was that it was falling off. It wasn't adhered. So if you spray cement on it, it's just going to fall off more, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And there was big movement in it. The lift shafts were the big liability in the towers. You can't use them without lift shafts. So I'll look that out for you. I'll email it to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Richard. Yeah, I got notifications on X at like 30 messages, and I look and it's all a conversation with Jerry and Grok. So, always good. Carl, go back to you.
Just along those lines, since I remembered what I was going to say, and it's along those lines, the bottom line is with the asbestos is you're either going to spend billions to clean it up, or you make trillions setting the table for the 21st century economy by having 9/11. 9/11 was the most premeditated crime in human history.
Thank you, Ross. Go back.
Yeah, yes, just to clarify, hopefully for the last time, Senator Johnson, I moved from a front row seat at the conference to be standing at the end of the little walkway, so I'd be the first to greet him after he had spoken. And I uploaded 2 photos, one a selfie I took with him just as he was about to leave after we spoke. But the first, a friend of mine took, and is somebody unmuted there? Appreciate anybody who's unmuted to mute yourself. So anyway, there's a great picture where as he came off that walkway, Senator Johnson performed like the political equivalent of a great basketball move. He pivoted to his left to shake someone else's hand while taking a big step forward with his right foot, so that he kind of pivoted on me to get past me to avoid me, because we recognized each other. That evening I wore exactly the same clothes I wore the day I met him on June 2nd at his office building. So I persisted, and he ultimately was compelled to speak with me. And he said, well, my staff has to look into the social media posts that people were talking with, because they have to protect me and the Senate and us from, well, he didn't use the word discredited persons, but the inference clearly was, my pinned post about Talmudic Zionism, about critical of Israel, that he can't get tagged with that because he's taken $500,000 from AIPAC. So he confessed essentially that he knew exactly what he was doing when he went on Tucker and also on Weinstein and said, yeah, this guy just vanished. Don't know who he is, I guess. Oh, well, but maybe it wasn't real. So I'm glad that I audio recorded my July 14th interview, because it's going to help him come clean. He's going to become honest. he might even renounce his AIPAC funding. And the next step is taking testimony from the USS Liberty survivors, who are true witnesses to false flag terrorism, the best example of what happened on 9/11.
Thank you, Carl. This would have been a great photo if it wouldn't be for the guy in the background that's all like cross-eyed or whatnot.
Oh, that's his AIPAC guy.
Okay, yeah, right. Good one. All right. I think I got everybody. Sandra, anything for the group?
Nothing, except I just wanted to, I feel compelled to just say, of course, we appreciate everybody who's here. And I know that there are reasons why some people prefer to stay off camera, and sometimes they're just trying to squeeze us in while they're doing something else, and all totally good. But I wanted to say a special thank you to those who stay on camera the whole time. It's just really nice to look at faces and see expressions and reactions, and it's a different kind of interaction. So to those of you who stay on camera, I just want to say thank you very much, because it makes a difference.
Yep. And keeping your shirt on. Thank you. All right.
Yeah, Lou's already gone.
Have a good evening, a great week, and we'll all talk next time.
I'll talk to you in a week.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.